All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. The Enzo Fernandez drama continues on. Well, not really drama, more of the transfer saga, more of the breakdown. Obviously, we've been in euphoria, the fan base with all of this Enzo transfer news that's been floating around. But now it's time to understand the Benfica side of things. I think too many times, and I think it's quite natural, like us being Chelsea fans, being caught up in the Chelsea sphere. But it's also interesting, and who better to bring in someone I love and I've known for a little while now, Adrian, who's a staunch Benfica fan. First of all, Adrian, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. Everything is starting to settle. Acceptance is happening finally. You start to mourn the player that you once had, but no, it's good, man. Like I've been saying to people who keep on reaching out to me, like, "Oh, you okay after this transfer?" Blah blah. Blah. Ultimately, okay. It's football. We'll get over it. But yeah, this one hurt a little bit. This one definitely hurt.
And you know what? I know it hurt you because generally when you comment on my videos, you're like, well done, Miz, keep it up. But the last one, you gave it to me. You're like, Miz, enough's enough. All right, stop taking the mick out of Benfica. We're not some sort of a walkover club, this, that, the other. Don't talk down on Rui Costa, who we'll get to very soon. Yeah. Let's start from here. And I'm going to take you, as I said, in the Instagram DM, I'm going to take you on a journey. I want to really get to know about this whole situation, even before it became a situation. But first of all, Adrian, where did this passion come from? Because I've always known that you're a Benfica fan, and I've seen a lot of your Benfica videos. But this week, I felt a different Adrian, man. Like it was from the heart. It hurt you big time. Talk to me, man. What's going on?
I think what really was annoying me is that, and I'm not going to use broad strokes and say all Chelsea supporters, but there was a lot of Chelsea supporters that were saying, this Rui Costa guy, he's an idiot. Just accept the deal. This guy is so greedy, blah, 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 blah. And we'll get to what eventually happened in the end. But from our point of view, it's like, look, it's the January window where you don't want to sell top players to begin with. Yeah. We were very clear at the beginning that it was release clause or nothing. If you want to take him, you have to trigger the release clause. We're not going to let anyone go in January because it's going to derail the rest of our season, that kind of thing. We also had Rui Costa saying that we have sporting targets that we want to hit. We want to have a deep run in the Champions League. We want to win as many cups as possible domestically. And Enzo factors into those plans, just as all of the players in the current squad factor into those plans, because there's always rumors about Gonçalo Ramos, etc., all these other players leaving. And so we finally felt like this is the president that is going to keep everyone together. And he was sort of talking the talk.
Yeah.
But then in the end, of course, we saw what happened and Enzo ends up leaving. But we saw all these people just talking down on them, saying, you've always been a selling club. And I guess in the end we were. But I think that there was a lot of push from Enzo and saying that this Rui Costa guy is an idiot. He's a greedy guy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, he's just looking out for his club.
True.
He's looking out for our interests. Why should we feel like we should do this for Chelsea just because you have a lot of money? And that was sort of the narrative that we are fed for so long, that we won't just bow down to other clubs. We don't have to sell, both for financial reasons and also to sort of preserve our sporting integrity for the rest of the season as well. So it was just getting very aggravating seeing all these anonymous Twitter accounts that were saying like, who's this Rui Costa guy? He's a washed player anyways, blah, 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 which is ultimately just Twitter. But I was like, enough, people.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I might have started a little bit as well on this channel. I was getting fed up at the end. I'm like, what's going on? But I never ever said he's an idiot or anything like that. I was getting fed up. Do you know what, Adrian? It's difficult. Like we need to understand from, excuse me, from your point of view as well, that, as you said, Benfica has sporting targets. Like you guys, I don't know, you guys haven't won a title in Portugal for like the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's been a few years now. Yeah.
So obviously there's that push that you want to win that. And as you said, I mean, you don't want to lose all of these superstar players as they come through straight away, lose to all of these big clubs. You do want to ensure that they're there for a little bit, get the success, and they move on. But I do want to ask you though, Adrian, you did mention that there isn't any financial stress. Now, I don't know. I don't know whether this is true or not, but there were a few other people, whether they were Benfica fans or people that are connected to Portuguese league or journalists that know stuff. They were saying that Benfica apparently are in some sort of financial stress. Apparently, last season they were handing out bonds to raise funds. And this level of money, I don't know whether this is true, and this you're going to come into play. And this level of money that we're throwing to Benfica, and don't forget, River Plate as well, they had a big interest in this 25%. So I'm pretty sure they were probably knocking on the door on Benfica saying, hey, that 25% could do really good for us as well. I mean, the financial stress, is that overblown? Because I remember you talking about a video maybe 2 seasons ago that there was some sort of crisis that was happening in Benfica.
So that crisis that was happening was, yeah, I mean, first of all clubs operate with some sort of debt, correct?
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit of debt going on, but Benfica has done well with all of the sales in the last few years. I mean, João Felix, Darwin, and Enzo alone, how much does that make up? That's like, we're talking 300+ million euros right there. Yeah. And we obviously don't spend that much in the transfer market. Yes, we spent a little bit more recently because we've had a lot more coming in, but when you look at the levels of in versus out.
Enzo was 10 million for you guys.
You know yeah, exactly. Like it's somewhere between 10 and 17 million. So when you look at it that way, we're doing fine financially. Of course, there's always a little bit of debt, but I think that a lot of this, Benfica has debt issues, just accept it, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that was it felt like all of the media and all of this pressure was just being pushed against Benfica to sort of force us into this sale and sort of, brainwash us into thinking that we had to make it happen. But really, we knew the situation. Rui Costa said, we don't need to sell. We can get by with, selling one player per summer, and we'll still be sort of putting that money towards debt and bringing in a few players. We're still signing players in January, like Sjelderup, who's apparently the next wonder kid. Tankstead as well.
We might have to.
Yes, I know. We'll get our people to talk to people.
I saw your tweet, Todd Bowley, 400 million.
Yeah, we'll start there. But no, I think that the whole debt thing was a little bit overblown. It's a much better situation than we were in the past. And I don't know what happened as far as finally accepting the deal, especially when it was like, release clause or nothing. That's what we kept on saying. I feel like Enzo must have made it horrible and made it known that he'll do whatever it takes to leave for Chelsea this time around.
Yeah, it was quite mad. And we're going to get to that. Okay, now I'm going to take you on a journey, right? As I said, as I promised to everyone, nearly 300 live right now. Smash the like button, number one. Number two, if you're not subscribed to Adrian, you are missing out on life, my man. I'm telling you right now, you are missing out on life. Please subscribe to him. The link is literally on the title. So all you got to do is just click on that. It'll take you to Adrian's page and subscribe. And Adrian, honestly, I thrive to be like him one day. Hopefully one day, if God has the mercy on me to be like that. But anyway, Adrian, let's take you for a journey. First of all, Enzo Fernandez comes to Benfica. Probably 6 months ago, like literally 6 months ago, from River Plate, 10 million. What did you guys know about Enzo Fernandez at that time? You as a fan, how excited were you? Take me through that journey a little bit before we start moving forward into this whole saga. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So I think that we finalized the deal towards the end of June or something like that, but there had been murmurs for a long time that Benfica was in for Enzo Fernandez, but you also had Inter Milan that was in for Enzo Fernandez. You also had teams in La Liga that were in for Enzo Fernandez. He was very much a player that was well regarded in South America. And of course, any of the big clubs who have a decent scouting network will have been aware of him.
By the way, I don't know if you were aware of this. Brighton, were Graham Potter's Brighton back then, they scouted Enzo Fernandez as well, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. They were aware of McAllister, etc. So yeah, I think that he was very much one of those players that was seen as sort of the future of midfield in Argentina. And so I immediately, once it was finalized, I asked one of my friends who's a River Plate supporter, what's the deal with this guy? Is he as good as everyone is saying he is, etc.? And this was at the time where Manchester City was also purchasing Julian Alvarez.
Yes, Julian Alvarez, yeah.
And he said to me, he's my favorite player on River Plate. He's our best player on River Plate right now. Wow. And I said, even better than Alvarez? And he said, yes, even better than Alvarez. So that immediately made me very optimistic that we had something good going on, because Benfica and River Plate, we have like a decent little connection of former players from River Plate playing at
Yeah.
Benfica, Pablo Aimar, Saviola, guys like
Oh,
that.
wow.
So I was very optimistic. I think he played his final game for River Plate on July 6th because he had this clause in the transfer that he would only leave after the Copa Libertadores.
Yeah.
They went out in the round of 16, so he joined us much earlier than anticipated. There was a world where Enzo Fernandez doesn't join us until September or October, and then maybe all of this doesn't happen. Maybe he doesn't go to the World Cup to replace what's that guy, Lo Celso, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
Wow.
But he ends up coming to Benfica, I think 9 days later, from the 6th or 10 days later, the 16th, something like that. He plays his first game for Benfica, and it was as if he had been there for years. There was absolutely zero settling in period. He was already pinging balls all over the pitch. He was linking up with players easily. He was, getting
Lighting
stuck
up the
in.
Champions League.
Yeah, he scored in our first 3 competitive games consecutively and a variety of goals. There's, volleys. He's arriving late to finish off an attacking move. He can hit one from distance, that kind of thing. So we're all like, okay, this is this is not what we expected to get out of this player. We weren't expecting him with this goal output right away. And that did die off, of course, but he still continued to be that linchpin in the midfield where everything good was going through him, whether we were playing, possession heavy against teams that wanted to sit back and he would play that final ball into the box or what have you, or if we were trying to counter against teams and he had that lightning quick, he can turn and he can ping a pass because he knows what he wants to do with it before he even receives the ball. And his accuracy with long balls is so sharp that if you're trying to play on the counter, which I'm sure you guys will with players like João Felix and Mudryk, etc. at your disposal, he can play that ball accurately. And so that was those early days of him playing at Benfica and sort of helping us with that crazy run we went on where we didn't lose a game until the World Cup break was it was all exciting. But we always knew that he wasn't going to stick around for long, Miz. We knew that.
And you know what? A lot of people don't talk about his off the ball work as well. The amount of interceptions that this particular player, makes every single game. Look, I'm not going to claim to be someone who's watched Benfica a lot before the World Cup. I did catch a few clips here and there, but World Cup is where I really got to watch him. And his IQ, footballing IQ, without the ball. People talk about when they're in the Premier League, it's all about defensive midfielder or a central midfielder. It's all about tackle. It's all about physicality. But I kept on saying, guys, I'm telling you, watch this guy. It's not always about the physical side. And it's not like Enzo Fernandez isn't physical. He's Argentinian. He's got that dog in him. He absolutely has that dog in him. But it's about reading the play well before everyone else and making those interceptions. But let's continue with this journey. He goes on, kills it in the Champions League, as you've been mentioning, obviously killing it in your league as well in Portugal. Goes on to the World Cup. Young player of the tournament, absolutely lighting it up. His connection with Messi, McAllister, the lot, it was just so sensational to watch. After the World Cup, obviously there was already talks happening from different fan bases here and there saying, hey, that's a player to watch out for, Enzo Fernandez. He can do everything that Adrian just said with the ball. And also without the ball, he looks very, very good, very composed. After the World Cup, knowing the height that he's, gone up to, what was your feeling? This was just maybe a few days before Chelsea sort of came into the frame. There was a couple of days of, celebration of Argentina, this, that, the other, and then Chelsea came in. But that moment when they just finished the World Cup, what were you thinking then, Adrian, that, oh my God, he's so good, we may not have him for too long?
I mean, there was a fear, and I remember speaking to someone who sort of is very close to the channel, one of my moderators, etc. We were talking about Enzo because he's a Benfiquista as well. And we were talking about Enzo and how he ended up going to the World Cup. And I think that largely he ended up going to the World Cup because of Lo Celso's injury, as I was mentioning earlier. So it wasn't even that he was a lock to be in that Argentina squad.
So mad.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And we were saying like, oh, if he gets his chance, we'll say bye to him in January, I guess. And the reason why we were saying that is because when Enzo signed up with us, and I have the full quote here if you want me to read it after, but when he signed up with us, one of the first things he said in an interview at the airport about signing with Benfica was how he's really looking forward to this opportunity, and that Benfica will provide a great springboard to the rest of Europe. So already we're like, okay, this guy clearly is using us in a sense, but the performances were so good that we sort of looked past it. But then when he had that World Cup triumph where he's a champion of the world and he also wins young player of the tournament as well, we're thinking, okay, first of all, does he even care about us at all in this moment? And will we be able to stave off all of these teams that are going to be circling and trying to get him immediately? Sure enough, there's that, let's call it wave one of Chelsea trying to get Enzo Fernandez, which sort of comes right after Christmas. And there was already sort of issues because he played against Braga. It was a horrible game. His head was gone. He played terribly.
That was the worst performance from him. Like he couldn't make a pass.
Yeah, it was awful. It would almost felt like it was sabotage at times with how bad he was playing, just because of the drop off from where he was prior to the World Cup, how he played at the World Cup, and then how he played after the World Cup, right? It was just ridiculous. And so he missed training. He went back to Argentina without the club's permission. So we're like, okay, here we go. And so it begins. But then Rui Costa stands up to this and he says, nobody's leaving. Roger Schmidt, our coach, says nobody's leaving. And he sort of condemned Chelsea. He said they made him go crazy, saying they're going to get him to pay the release clause. But then they try to negotiate when they come to the table. After that, he gets suspended. And to his credit, he went right back to brilliant Enzo following that. You know, even he was scoring goals against, I think it was Varzim, against Santa Clara. He got 2 assists, but he had a big hand in the other goal, the third goal that we scored as well. It was just like Enzo masterclass after Enzo masterclass in January. And so we're thinking, okay, he's slapping the badge saying, I'm going to stay. Just more
I'm going to bring that footage up. I'm going to bring
I'm
going to have to bring
exactly. So from that moment, we thought, okay, we're good. We're in the clear. You couple him with those actions, looking happy in training and with the rest of the squad and happy to take part. Quotes saying that he's happy to stay, blah, blah, blah. And you couple that with the hard stance that Rui Costa took and that Schmidt took, and you're thinking, we're good. He's here to stay. That's why you saw this side of me that's saying, like, guys, please respect us. We just want to keep our player. We had no reason to believe otherwise. But then the great raid of Lisbon happened, and he's gone now. Yeah, this is it. This is it.
I had to bring this up. I mean, look, Adrian, just to sort of go back on what you said, you're right. Like after the World Cup, a couple of days after, to be honest, I didn't. Do you know what? Now I'm going to give you my side of the story now, right?
Yeah.
I never even, and I'm going to come back to this clip, by the way. I never thought that we could get a player like Enzo Fernandez, because before the January window, there was a little bit of a 50-50 sort of feeling in the fan base because the results were so poor for Chelsea. Morale was down. Players were just so poor. We didn't know what to expect for the January window. I certainly didn't think we go for a player like Enzo Fernandez. For me, that was like, that's, Real Madrid sort of level. Those are the clubs that are going to go for Enzo Fernandez. We're lingering in 10th. Like, how do we even think about Enzo Fernandez? He's a monster now, right? And then the link comes in. Big Todd Bowley, Big Todd B comes in and he says, do you know what? We're interested. We want to have a good meal. We are interested. And the entire fan base went berserk, because that's when we started getting belief that I think our owners are not messing about. So then obviously the whole rumor started, and Enzo Fernandez, his head turned. He really wants to join. Personal terms agreed. We're getting very excited. Gianluca Di Marzio, you took us for a ride, man. I'm never going to believe you again. Gianluca Di Marzio saying it's done. He's going to be a Chelsea player. It's imminent, this, that, the other. And then apparently Chelsea had a meeting with Rui Costa, and Benfica apparently were under the impression that we were going to hit the release clause. But then Chelsea in the meeting said, we're not hitting the release clause. We're going to put in about 85 million pounds. Your player's ready to leave. He wants to leave. So I think we were trying to lowball you guys from that. I don't know if I could even say lowball now. It's probably more of a negotiation sort of mechanism. Yeah. Trying to use the players, initiative that he wants to leave. So you might as well let him go. But then, look, that didn't happen. It all sort of died down. And for most parts of this January after that, as you said, when this particular image came, I was astounded. I was like, oh my God, this is over. Like Enzo's staying. I mean, look at the way he's gesturing to the crowd. And I was going around just laughing about it, saying, look, he's saying that he's leaving. Obviously, he's clearly saying that, he's staying at Benfica. I mean, Adrian, let's start from here before we go into that endgame saga of Enzo Fernandez, which happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. After this image, Adrian, what did you think? Like, there's no way this brother is going after that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And like I was saying, when you take all of his comments after, you take what Schmidt was saying about, he understands his mistake. He's reintegrated well. He just wants to get back to work and he wants to contribute to the team. You take all of that, plus his gesture, plus what we are hearing from Rui Costa about no one is leaving in January unless the release clause on their contract is triggered. Again, we're confident he's staying. There's no way he's going to leave. There's no way that we're going to accept anything less. But now with hindsight, if I can look at it with hindsight, and I can he's a great player and he will absolutely give his all for your club. But I do think that he is completely self-interested and he sees that teams provide opportunities for him. What he said, he was very open and honest about what he said about Benfica and how they provide a springboard for the rest of Europe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He was very open about that. And so you couple that with this slapping the badge and, I'm here to stay. It seems like he'll do and say anything.
Fist pump as well.
The fist pump, getting the fans into it. I do feel like he is very, very self-interested. And when there's something that he wants or there's a club that he wants to end up at comes along, he'll throw it all away and sort of.
Are you trying to tell us something? Are you trying to say, Adrian, that maybe down the track he might do this to Chelsea as well if Real Madrid or anyone else come knocking on the door?
I think so. I personally would. I'll say this: it would not surprise me at all if that sort of thing happens. If, let's say, Real Madrid, because Real Madrid for South Americans is a very special team that they all want to end up at, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to end up at Real Madrid or Barcelona. They grew up watching these teams. El Clasico, we had that era of domination from La Liga clubs, where all these guys were young and watching on TV and saying, that's where I want to end up. So I'm saying that it would not surprise me at all if one of those teams showed interest, if Big Florentino came along and said, look, you can be the future of our midfield at Real Madrid and help us to continue this dynasty. I wouldn't be surprised if his head was turned. Just
contract
based
till
off
2031, by the way. Contract till 2031. So Real Madrid better pay the bucks.
That's it. I mean, even at Benfica, he had a 5-year contract as well, and that was sort of see ya.
Gone.
Yeah, exactly. So I would not be surprised. Nothing against Chelsea, just based off of what I've seen from his character so far.
No, absolutely. I want to just quickly go through a couple of your tweets. I think they were really, really good. And I think this is where we understand a lot more from a Benfica point of view. Weird transfer window. I feel like free spending has caused some brain rot and entitlement in certain fans. Rui Costa isn't obliged to accept any bids. We have sporting targets we want to hit, not financial ones. Trigger the release clause or move on. That's on you, not on him. Not all Chelsea supporters are like this, of course, just the ones who are getting annoyed and insulting Rui Costa because he's denying them of a new toy. He's putting his club first in January window. He doesn't care about yours or the money, as if that's a crime. Now let's talk about the end game, because everything
it all changed.
It's mad. I don't know how it all changed like that. It's really quite mad. Rui Costa said, release clause or nothing. And it all ends up being 40 million upfront, 6 installments. I'm thinking, was there even a fight? Like, was it already pre-approved a while back and Rui Costa was just showing this to the fans that he tried to do something? Because how do you go from it's release clause or nothing and I want all of that money, well, predominantly all of that money up front, to 40 million up front and 6 installments? Like, and then also hearing that player begged him to go. Wow, what's going on?
Look, I have no idea. This this is what made it so frustrating for us. And I'll give you guys a little bit of added context here, because prior to Rui Costa, we had Luis Felipe Vieira as our president, and he was very corrupt. He was arrested for money laundering, tax evasion, all these sorts of things. Quick plug, if anyone is interested in that, I did do a video on it. It's on my channel.
But by the way, guys, check that video out. I'm gonna put it in my description. That video I watched, that's a damn good video. Seriously, go and watch it. Seriously, go and watch it.
It was so that was sort of what we were used to. This is a president who did the opposite of what I said in that tweet, who would put the financial targets in front of the sporting targets. And how many times did we have Benfica looking good, and then they'll sell their best player, and then he just wouldn't replace them? Yep. And it just became like an ongoing thing. And it's called Vieirismo, that the Benfica supporters refer to it as a sort of Vieira way. And so we thought that we were beyond that with Rui Costa, because like I said, he was saying all the right things. We don't need to sell. We have sporting ambitions that we want to reach. We don't need to sell. No one's leaving. We want to maintain.
I had you guys as a UCL dark horse, by the way, Adrian. Honestly, I thought you guys would go deep with Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were all thinking, yes, finally, Rui Costa is the chosen one. This is the man who is going to put all of our sporting targets at the forefront, and we'll be able to hang on to teams for more than a year. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could have the same group of players together for more than 1 year, and we make little additions here to improve the team instead of, taking out two massive pieces and then constantly playing catch up. So we thought that we had this situation where finally we can not win the Champions League, of course, but at least, have a good run at it. We have Club Brugge in the first round. Who knows what can happen after that?
I think you would have probably beat. You guys topped your group stage with PSG and Juventus. You really outplayed them.
Absolutely. So this is what we're all thinking. Like, Rui Costa is the chosen one. He's saying all the right things. And then you get to that final hour of the transfer window where Fabrizio Romano is saying, here we go. And we think, okay, the only outcome is that Chelsea's paying 150 million guaranteed or something like that. They're going to go way above in order to make this happen over 2 or 3 installments. And then it turns out that it's just 120 million paid over 20 years. Like, it's just like the worst deal. It's like not even close to what Rui Costa was talking about he would accept. Yeah. And then on top of that, there's absolutely zero time in order for us to find a replacement as well. So we end up getting a really bad deal in the sense that it's just a little bit of money up front, and we don't have a player to replace in the. It's like, why didn't we do this?
You guys didn't replace him.
No.
Wow. So who's that new guy that you guys brought in? That Fabrizio Romano was saying, that new player, new central midfielder that Benfica got in.
I don't know. As far as I know, there's no new central midfield that we have yet.
Who's the guy that you were mentioning?
We brought in Schjelderup, who's a 18-year-old sort of winger striker type guy. He was the top scorer in the Danish league, and then we brought in another striker, Tengsted, who was another top scorer, I believe, in Norway. It's been difficult to keep up.
Wow, man. It's been quite mad. The other factor that I wanted to bring in, and I don't think a lot of people are focusing on this, and this is where I would love to get your insight on this. Obviously, at the end, Chelsea got their way. Rui Costa simply, all that talk and, waiting till the last moment and we get everything that we wanted. But this tweet from you really got me thinking, and I want you to sort of talk a little bit about this before we slowly wrap things up about this particular transfer saga. This gigantic and remarkable operation was only possible due to the action of super agent Jorge Mendes. Thank you, Uncle George. I see nothing has changed. This guy's obviously connected to a lot of Portuguese players. He's got plenty of Portuguese players under his belt. Now, how big was he in this whole situation? Because I don't think a lot of Chelsea fans are talking about how important Jorge Mendes probably was in this whole piece. Care to give us some insight in that?
Basically, I like to refer, I did a video on this also. He's sort of the puppet master of Europe, but he's also the octopus of Portugal. Any talent that comes through Portugal, whether he's hit their direct representative or not, he sort of plays like the broker in a lot of cases. For example, that's exactly sort of what he played. He was sort of an intermediary, sort of broker type guy in this deal, because his agent, Enzo Fernandez, sorry, I'm getting my River Plate Benfica players mixed up. Enzo Fernandez, his agent is not Jorge Mendes.
No, he's not.
But Jorge Mendes played a role in it. Similarly to, I believe, and someone, if there is another Benfica in the chat, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that João Felix, his agent wasn't Jorge Mendes yet before he moved to Atletico Madrid, but Jorge Mendes was all over it. You saw him having dinner with João Felix in Madrid, etc., playing that role. And of course, after that move, he absorbs him as a client. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing sort of happens with Enzo Fernandez as well. So he touches everything in Portugal. He's especially involved with Benfica. He is the reason. It's a double-edged sword, right? He's the reason.
Like a godfather, is he? He's a bit of a godfather over there.
Kind of, yeah. He's the reason why Benfica gets these crazy amounts in. But obviously a lot of that goes to him. But he's also the reason why we can't hang on to our talent, because he gets a hold of him. He gets in their ear, I can get you that move to La Liga. I can get you that move to the Premier League, whatever. And so we end up just becoming this club where talent stays for a season or in 6 months in Enzo Fernandez's case, and then they get moved on.
No, 100, man. Thank you so much for that information. All right, last few questions to ask you. First of all, look, it's done. All right, let's not be upset anymore, Adrian. I don't want you to be upset. All right, we're mates, right?
No. We're good.
We're good. Firstly, how do you think Enzo is going to be at Chelsea? A few people, look, majority of the fan base are very excited, but obviously there's one or two people that are like, hey, some of these big moves, big transfers don't really work out at Chelsea. How long until you turn on Enzo Fernandez? And I'm like, dude, from what I've seen so far, it would be very astonishing for me if this guy fails at Chelsea Football Club. Now, a few people are talking about, what about the physicality? I'm like, he's Argentinian, man. Like, this guy is got that determination to do well in the Premier League. So firstly, how do you think he's going to go with Chelsea Football Club with the quality as well that we brought in? João Felix, Mudryk, Madueke, do you know what I mean? Badishil, like all these other players that we have in and around him. Thoughts?
I have no reason to believe at this point, fully just putting aside that I'm upset that he's left. I have no reason to believe that he won't be a success at Chelsea. I have no reason to believe he wouldn't be a success no matter who he joined in Europe. It doesn't matter, because all that we've seen from him is going from Defensa y Justica, I apologize if I got the name wrong, to River Plate. Does great at River Plate. Goes from River Plate to Benfica. That's a step up in competition, playing in the Champions League, etc. Does great, dominates. Goes from bench player for Argentina to making that impact against Mexico to then becoming an integral part in the World Cup. There hasn't been a moment where you've said like, oh, this guy looks out of depth. This guy can't handle it. There hasn't been a single moment sort of in his career. At least, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe in Argentina, he had moments like that early when he was young, but he just turned 22. So far, exactly. So good, right? There hasn't been a reason to think that he will fail at Chelsea. And then that's not even looking at how technically brilliant he is. The technique that he has is at another level, whether it's his control or his passing is pinpoint accurate.
So good.
There's something that I always like to sort of articulate to people where Benfica could be countering and we'll have Neres running down the wing. We'll have João Mario running down the other wing. And he'll find a way to make a pass that none of us even saw, to put Rafa through. He'll play this reverse through ball between two defenders, but ahead of the keeper still, that Rafa can run onto. And you're just thinking like, I didn't even see that pass. I didn't think anyone would dare to make that pass. And it's not just that he's daring enough to do it, but he has the technical ability to pull it off. So it's footballing IQ, it's technique, and it's... He also has that sort of that fire in the midfield. He'll add a little bit of steel to your midfield. He's not one to back down from a challenge. If ever you want to see him exhibiting that well, just look at our highlights against PSG, where first minute he clattered.
I'm glad you brought this on. Like a lot of people say this to me, Adrian. He's not a DM. I think people, they look at the word DM and they think they've got to be a defensive player. Like they don't understand that you can also be a defensive-minded player and an offensive-minded player. With and without the ball. Adrian, for over 500 people live right now, a lot of them probably Chelsea fans, can you tell me like his defensive qualities from Benfica, from what you've seen? I think people are underestimating this guy. I've seen it firsthand for Argentina, him playing as the deepest midfielder with McAllister just a bit ahead and Rodrigo De Paul being more box to box.
Yeah,
absolutely. He's definitely capable.
That's you've said it right there. He is capable of doing so. Like, he can play anywhere in the midfield. He could be a 6, he could be an 8, he could be a 10. In my
100.
opinion, he's best utilized as sort of a creative 8, playing next to someone who is a defensive midfielder. But
Yes.
like you said, we saw him play for Argentina as a 6. He was splitting the center backs. He was dropping super deep. He was
Yes.
playing long balls. He can
Yes.
do it. He's an accurate tackler as well. But in playing him in that position, you're losing a lot of the best aspects of Enzo, which are his verticality, which are his progressing the ball forward, So you do lose a lot of the upside of him in that case. But he is definitely capable, and he does have that steel to play as a defensive midfielder. And like you said, he reads the game so well that he can break up play. He can make those interceptions, and he's good in the tackle. One thing that I always do like to bring up, just as sort of, people always want to hear the downside. They talk about his pace, which to me, it doesn't matter. Who cares? You don't want him running around the pitch anyway.
He's not a winger, right? So.
Yeah, he's not going to make any sort of like Kovacic type runs where he's going to do a mazy dribble through the midfield or anything like that. He relies on his passing and his brain in the midfield.
That's what we need.
Exactly. But also, there has been times, and I like to warn people, where he'll get that yellow card early in the game and he'll show a little bit too much. He'll come close to getting that second yellow card. I don't know if it's just dumb luck or if he has sort of the presence of mind to reel it in again for the rest of the game. But there are some times where you're thinking, okay, please, Enzo, just chill out a little bit.
That's that Argentinian in him,
exactly. It's that Argentinian intensity. We love that, but let's just reel it in. To his credit, he never got a second yellow or a red at Benfica, but he was close against PSG because he
best
rattled.
believe he's getting it for Chelsea, like Felix's first game.
Exactly. He doesn't want to have that same debut, but he rattled Neymar early. And he continued to rattle him. And we're sort of thinking, like, as much as we love this, just please rein it in a little bit,
All right, last question. If Chelsea, look, Benfica, I'm still backing them to beat Club Brugge. No disrespect to Club Brugge in the Champions League. I think they're doing well as well. I think they topped their group as well, along with... No, they wouldn't have topped their group.
I think Benfica, they got second in the end.
They ended up getting second. But I'm backing Benfica. We'll see how that match goes. If Chelsea do play Benfica, hoping that Chelsea gets through Dortmund next. That's spice, Adrian. Chelsea, Benfica. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, are you somewhat thinking, come on, I want those guys. I want Chelsea next up.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it because if we do get through Club Brugge, we've shown, yes, we did have Enzo at the time, but we've shown that we can beat Juventus. We've shown that we can, not lose to PSG. We held them at 1-1 both games.
Yeah.
We've shown just how good we can be this season. And there's been something with Benfica lately where, yeah, I see that comment. You had me at João Felix already. I'm a huge João Felix fan. So now with Enzo there as well, I'll be watching. And Mudryk. God, that guy is electric. But yeah, I think that we've shown recently in the Champions League that we can at least give very good games to teams. I mean, we came even close against Liverpool last season, right? So yeah, I think that we do we're building that pedigree again, and we're an even better team than we were last season. Yes, we did lose Enzo Fernandez, but I think that it would be a very good game, at least up against Chelsea.
Nah, of course, man, of course. And I can't wait. I'm pretty sure we'll organize something, maybe even a watch along. I don't know. I mean, if you're open for it, I may even come to your channel, get involved in that watch along. But yeah, Adrian, thank you so much for your time, my man. Over 550 people live right now. First of all, smash the like button. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe. We've gone beyond 20,000. So thank you, each and every one of you guys, for that 20,000 milestone. Much appreciated. And obviously, Adrian's helped massively in the early stages to give that push, man. I remember the first time I featured, I ended up getting like over 500 subscribers from there. So that was brilliant to have. Adrian, so really appreciate that. And make sure you subscribe to Adrian. The link is literally on the title. If you're not following, he's got, it's like a footballing dictionary. That's what I think about when I go to Adrian's channel. It's like a movie. Every video is like a movie. It's so well scripted. It's so well done. One day I hope I can do in that level. So Adrian, once again, thank you so much for spending the time here, letting all of us know about the entire story. I know you probably would be fed up by now by going into all of these different shows and telling them nonstop about all of this stuff, but hopefully you enjoyed as well being here, and hope to see you again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm always happy to speak about Benfica, speak about Enzo. Doesn't matter how many times I have to speak about him. Happy to, and I like to hope that my channel is more interesting than reading a dictionary, but I do appreciate the I do appreciate the metaphor there. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And hey, here's to 20K more, man.
Thank you so much. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, take care. See ya.